Mr. Shapiro, good evening. I have already introduced myself to you. My name is Alexandre Fedorovki. I am Doctor of Philosophy in Philosophy and I have master's degree in International Relations. As you remember, we got acquainted during the Diplomatic Forum at English-American University, and I tried to put you several questions. Unfortunately, just after my short comment on your thesis that Russia is the main threat to European stability and stability of the world, somebody tried to take microphone on me. I managed to put the first question, and the first question was, who started the Second World War? And if American government should bear responsibility for the fact that Nazis got into power, because during the London conference on Germany, American delegation was cut off any contacts with Washington. The conference failed, and as a result of aggravation of financial situation in the country, Nazis got into power. What was really strange, according to commemorations of Eleanor Roosevelt, wife of President Roosevelt, was that simultaneously American government, ignoring the London conference, placed order for hundreds of ships that could transport infantry, artillery, and tanks in one direction, and that was Europe. I really wanted you to make a comment on that, and when I asked you if American government bears any responsibility, you said no. I guess the problem of ours is the thesaurus of information on American history, on international history. Actually, to understand each other, as a minimum, you have to read these books. And then we could definitely find a common code of communication. The second question of mine, and somebody attempt to take microphone to prevent me from putting the second question, was about the fact that American government is aware of the forthcoming geological catastrophe, because the North Pacific plate is going to collapse. And I asked you if American government has any plan to evacuate most of the population of the United States, because only 6% of population in these catastrophic events could survive. The answer was very short, no. Unfortunately, I was deprived of opportunity to ask you, to put you the third question, and that was the question, if America is a circular society. Probably you would answer definitely yes, but if it is so, I have a question. If America is really a circular society, why each sitting of House of Representatives and of the Congress starts with the worship, and both of the priests are on government payroll? Several comments on what you were saying to people. The fact that you declined my invitation for a lunch, and I would like to invite you to a tea party, showed a real attitude of American government to its common citizens. The effect of the way you treated your co-citizen, the effect of the fact that you deprived me of possibility to put the third question and ignored for the rest of the forum, made a very depressive influence on people. Practically, you compromised the country, and you compromised the political elite of the United States you represent. I'm not surprised that you have and had problems with Mr. President Zeman because Mr. Shapiro, this is Europe, and Europe needs certain manners. It is not America. You have to behave according to the European traditions here, and one of them is good manners and freedom of speech. You were talking about liberties, freedoms as far as Libya, as far as Syria, Iraq, but that was the worst example you showed to the people. You deprived your own citizen of possibility to express his thoughts and just to put a question and to get answer. And right for information is one of the basic rights of a human being and of American citizen. Several theses of yours were very strange and doubtful, and one of them was that what is good, it is good for the world if America is not weak. Well, I would like any country to be seen as a strong one. And you mentioned something about the values. Well, I would like to ask you, what values are you talking about? What values do you offer the people of different cultures? Is it this shocking behavior of high schools, rise of pregnancies among the school children, schoolgirls, and this freedom of behavior that America exposed to the world? When you were talking about American troops coming from the maneuvers in Poland, you were saying that you had some thoughts that people could throw eggs or tomatoes. Well, eggs and tomatoes are rather expensive in Czech Republic in winter time, and you said that instead people met you American troops with flowers. So let us be frank, absolutely frank. 2 days prior, the American troops were going to get through Czech territory. Czech Federal Police made a statement in all Czech mass media that any action as throwing eggs, tomatoes, or whatever would be considered as an administrative violation or even a criminal violation. So we need to be absolutely sincere and not to represent facts which actually are not adequate to the reality. Leadership, American special responsibility. So, what kind of responsibility are we talking about? And who stated this responsibility? I have never met anything in history like that. What in general do you mean saying about American people's special role in the world, American exclusive role in world affairs? Maybe this exclusiveness goes to the thesis of Jewish people about God chosen. Because we know that the most white people in America, they are sons and daughters, grandsons and daughters of Jewish refugees who came to America from Eastern Europe and did not register their ethnicity. When you were talking about American way of life, by some reason you were very short, and maybe you just were ashamed to say that American nation today is a nation of poverty, nation of credit card nation, and nation which is absolutely dependent on credit. Just after the Second World War, American men working alone could buy a house and pay for it, could buy a car and pay for it, and wife would not work. She would take care of children, she would take care of household. Today in modern America that you're so much proud of, and I'm ashamed, 2 parents are working, including the so-called moon shifts, and they cannot make it. American soldiers, nobody believed me in Europe when I was saying that American soldier was getting like $22,000, $23,000, $24,000 a year. Well, yes, during the warfare they were getting some extra, but 75% of American military families were and are in critical financial position. And that is the truth we need to say about. And actually, Mr. Shapiro, as far as pride, to be proud of, my position is that every citizen of any country has something to be proud of, something that is needed to be improved in the country, and something to be ashamed of. I would like to introduce 2 books to you. One is The Dawn We Slept. That is a story about the catastrophe of Pearl Harbor. And this is the Commission report on events in New York associated with attacks of so-called Arab terrorists against the sister towers. Mr. Shapiro, how could it happen that 23 terrorists, no doubt they were terrorists, which were under 24/7 surveillance of Mossad, be able to escape from the hotel and perform those terrorist attacks? Another question is, how did it happen that CIA field agents were informing the government that some Arab youth were getting trained piloting aircrafts, but they did not have interest to get habits how to land heavy passenger jets? What is very strange is that situation is absolutely similar to what was going on in Pearl Harbor, when field officers, military intelligence officers, were informing the central government, federal government, about the forthcoming attack of Japanese, and there was cut-off information about the former actions of Japanese side. You say that you are very much proud of America. So, yes, there are some things, as I said, to be proud of. But there are a lot of things to be ashamed of. And among those things is what we Americans did to Japanese. Barbecuing several hundred, well, in one case 80,000, in the second case over 100,000 of people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What about those fireballs that American aircrafts were using against civil population in Sunday mornings and during the daytime of civil Japanese cities, barbecuing thousands of people in those hellfires, in those balls of fire? So what I would like to say that that is what I wanted to discuss with you during lunchtime, but you refused. Mr. Shapiro, have you ever been to Oregon? You know the Oregon trial. When I go through Oregon, I always park by one of the casinos and dine over there. It is a territory of Native American reservation. I have never met so much anger and hate as far as Native Americans against white people, when they were saying what your government, my government, had done to Native Americans, killing animals, putting them in reservations, and practically destroying the Native American culture. This is a very good book, The Underside of American History. I would like definitely to talk with you about the underside of American history. And this is another good book about Native Americans once they moved like the wind, Gone with the Wind. We could talk about the Shannon and Bannocks in the state of Idaho, enemies for hundreds of years that you forced in one reservation and you taught them to live together, still hating each other and one another. You were talking about immigrants coming to Europe. I remember that US military experts were warning American government that a move against Iraq could destabilize the whole region. American government ignored that. We got destabilized Libya, we got destabilized Iraq, we got destabilized other territories, including Syria. And I have a question, Mr. Shapiro. Is it by chance, or it is a plan to destabilize the world, a notion which is which people use if it is a part of the plan, or what is known by controlled chaos, terrorism? Well, I remember times when America was not afraid of terrorism, but I also remember the times when they were saying that that was America who brought political terrorism to the world, and that once upon a time it would come back to the land. We are talking about actions of American military in Africa. And African journalists, African politicians were warning America that once upon a time that would come back and hit the society. How could you imagine, or how can you imagine the reaction of the people if you tell them, representatives of traditional cultures, what to wear, who to pray, what kind of cloth to wear, and what kind of movies to watch. And do not forget that as much as Jewish people are still in shock after what happened during the Second World War, by the way, American government is directly responsible for the fact that American Jews did their best not to let European Jews into America. Maximum what they could do, that was get to Cuba. But that was because of American government. Jews had to stay in Germany, in Austria, and you actually sacrificed them, and now building museums of Holocaust just to have a political, legal reason to say other nations that America has an exclusive right and responsibility. Mr. Shapiro, you mentioned, I could not understand why it was in your state presentation, but there was a photo of your mom in Bohemia, and you were saying that by this or that reason she managed to escape when there were other Jews, when other people could not escape. But what you did not say, why she had to escape. During 2.5 hours of meeting with you, the word Jew has never been pronounced. Was it by chance? I think that we need to say frankly that there was a huge problem, and that was the oppression against Jews, persecution of Jews. But America bears the main responsibility for the fact that Jews were oppressed, but America was keeping silence till 1933, because if America said anything about persecution of Jews in Germany, Germany immediately could say that black people were persecuted and, by the way, lynched in America. And that was only in 1943 when America, for the first time, spoke out defending the Jews in Germany and Austria. We know that about 1 million of Jews were exchanged and taken away from concentration camps in exchange of trucks, fuel, food, which would not have been used against Western coalition, the Western Front. I have a question, Mr. Shapiro, to you. Who were those 1 million of people who were so lucky to get out of concentration camps, and why this list is still top secret? You said that you are from Chicago. Well, it is a very well-known fact that Chicago has the main concentration of Polish Jews, and I do not understand why you hide the fact that practically, Mr. Shapiro, you are from Jewish family. And that is very pity that you hide such facts, because that is the reason to say that crypto-Zionism exists and people hide their origin. Once upon a time, I repeat, each nation, each people has something to be proud of, has something to be improved, and something to be afraid of. I have much more questions, Mr. Shapiro, and I would be delighted to drink a cup of coffee or tea with you and to make an exchange of opinions. Thank you.